I want to read something that was brought up, a question. Can you do a video on how to overcome a supervisor trying to ruin your career and only view things from a negative aspect, and how to improve the relationship? That was a question, a very good question. And I want to talk about that. So let's say you're in the Air Force and you have a job, or let's say you even have a job outside of the military. Something that's very important is feedback and expectations. Your supervisor, if you have a good supervisor, and remember, not all of them are good, they're going to take the lead and say, okay, I want to meet with you. Here is my expectation of what I expect from you and your job. And that involves feedback. A good supervisor will do that. I remember a former commander of mine who did that. He took over and he left a letter. It was 2 pages on his expectations and consistency and communication and teamwork. All of those were expectations that he had. Most supervisors in the Air Force, not all, but most, are good people, and they will try to do the right thing, at least my experience. But at the same time, you're going to come across an individual who is not well versed in supervising or leading people. That's how come, if that good supervisor provides their expectations, that's good. If they don't, then take it upon yourself to say, sir, ma'am, I want to know, I want to meet with you, I want to know what your expectations are, I need feedback. And feedback goes both ways, it's just communication. You have to do that. Hopefully that supervisor does it. If they do, good. If they don't, then you ask for it. In the Air Force, it has to be documented as well. And that's part of your evaluation when you get to that point in your career. Because if it's in writing, you know what they expect. You also know what their input, what their feedback is on you. If you're on track, good. If you're not, it should say on there, you need to work on, and then it says it. Having it in writing. At the same time, it paints the picture on what the expectation is, and you have it in writing, you review it as needed. Are you on track? Yes, good. Are you on track? No, work on it. Because the next thing will be your evaluation. Your evaluation should correlate to your feedback that they gave you. Yes, you're on track. No, you're not on track. What about the individual, the supervisor that is negative? Does that happen? It can happen. Here's what I would do. Just don't give them a reason to write you up for something, and know what they want. That way you provide, as far as that job, you are doing your job. If you're doing it, good. And if they don't like you, that's a personal thing. That's not professional. Does it happen? Sometimes. Not often, but if it does, you have to have that thick skin. And I know it's easier said than done, because I would take things personal in the past. I can still take things personal. So you have to develop thick skin. And the bottom line is, if you are doing what you are paid to do, which is your job, you're doing your job. You're on track. If you're not, and you're allowing people to point the finger at you, whether it's your leadership, your supervisor, your superintendent, then don't do that. Because you are now putting yourself, you're participating with that process. For me, going back to my first job, I was a firefighter. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I still did a good job, and I excelled, and my performance and my leadership knew that. I didn't slack off and say, no, I'm just going to do whatever, because that's not going to be a positive thing for us. But if you have an individual that has a lot of, let's say, poison, and they're negative, you're going to have to overcome that by doing a solid job, but by not taking it personally, and that's easier said than done, by being professional, doing your job, and then living your life outside of work. And if you do have, let's say, an obstacle that you're doing that, but that supervisor is just consistently destroying your morale, then there are systems in place, whether it's a mediator, and some people aren't brave enough to do that, but I'm a mediator for the Department of Defense, and I enjoy it, and look into that. Or you take it up to the next chain of command. For example, that could be the first sergeant, or that could be a mentor, and you bring it up. What's going on? Here's my concern, and then you find a solution, because in the Air Force there's so much on the line that we don't have time, and it shouldn't be that way. At the same time, we don't have time for nonsense. I don't have patience for nonsense. I'm there to do a job. I do it, and I press forward. There's always a solution. There's good solutions. There's programs in place. All you have to do is educate yourself on what's out there, but begin on yourself by doing a solid job, knowing what the expectation is, listening to feedback, providing feedback, and you will overcome. Take care.